The galaxy had waited for this day. Across the stars, banners of empires shone, each carrying their greatest champions to the arena of the prototype. It was no ordinary contest. The prototype had slept for 10,000 years, locked behind walls of ancient alloy, a machine left behind by the vanished architects, a race older than every empire alive today. The architects had built wonders that no one could match, world engines, fleets that sailed between galaxies, and machines that decided the rise and fall of civilizations. But among their creations, none was more mysterious than the prototype. Some said it was a weapon. Others said it was a guide, a test, or a key to something even greater. The only thing known for certain was this: the prototype would accept only one bearer. And whoever it accepted would hold power to decide the future of the galaxy. The arena was carved from black stone that seemed to drink the light of stars. Millions of beings crowded the seats. Alien nobles watched from golden balconies, and soldiers from hundreds of worlds lined the stands, their eyes fixed on the circular floor where the champions would walk. Above them, a colossal machine waited in silence. It was shaped like an obelisk of metal and light, taller than 100 warriors standing on one another's shoulders. At its heart was the scanner of worth, a pulsing core of white fire. The first champion entered the floor. He was a giant from the Galactic Dominion, standing 3 times taller than any human, his body covered in bone armor that had grown from birth. His people claimed to be unmatched in strength. With heavy steps, he moved toward the scanner. The crowd roared with pride. The scanner opened its glowing eye. A beam of light washed over the champion, moving from his head to his feet. The giant lifted his chest, ready for the glow of acceptance. But then the core flickered red. A harsh sound echoed through the arena. Rejected gasps broke across the stands. The giant froze in disbelief. His people shouted in rage, but the guards pulled him back. The prototype did not argue, did not explain. It simply closed its eye and waited for the next. Then came a warrior from the Hilari Empire, a creature of silver skin and burning eyes. They were said to be masters of thought, their minds able to crush stone and twist steel. The Hilari floated forward, every movement graceful, their power surrounding them like an aura. Surely they would be chosen. Again the scanner opened. Again the white beam scanned. The Hilari's eyes glowed with confidence. Yet once more the core turned red. Rejected. A hiss of shock swept through the arena. 2 champions, both rejected. More came forward. The scaled hunters of Dravos, bred in darkness to kill without sound. The cybernetic lords of Xiron, half machine and half living flesh. The fireborn children of Ornick, who carried heat of suns inside their blood. Each stepped forward. Each was scanned. Each was rejected. The arena grew restless. Murmurs turned to arguments. Some shouted that the prototype was broken. Others said the architects had left a puzzle too cruel to solve. Across the stands, faces filled with doubt. If the strongest were denied, who could ever be worthy? The Galactic Council whispered among themselves in their skybox, their robes heavy with jewels. They had promised the galaxy that this day would prove which empire was supreme, but now it seemed no one was enough. Then, in the silence after the last rejection, a figure stepped onto the floor. He was small, fragile. His armor looked plain compared to the glittering suits of the others. His weapons were simple steel and ceramic, not glowing plasma or ancient crystal. He was not a beast bred for war or a mind forged in power. He was only human. The crowd laughed at first. Jeers filled the air. Some shouted, "Is this a joke?" "A human dares?" Others spat, "Your species is weak. You should not even be here." But the human did not answer. He kept walking. Each step echoed in the silence, heavier than the footsteps of giants. His eyes did not lower. He looked at the prototype as if it were meant for him alone. At the edge of the scanner, he paused. He could feel the heat of the machine on his skin as if it were alive, watching him. For a moment, even he doubted. What if they were right? What if this was madness? Still, he stepped forward. The scanner opened its eye. The beam of light fell across him. Unlike the others, it lingered. It did not pass quickly, but moved slowly, as if searching for something hidden deep inside. The air grew tense. The arena fell silent. Not a single voice dared to speak. The glow around the human shifted, from white to gold, from gold to burning blue. The floor trembled. Symbols of light burst from the ground, rising into the air like fireflies. The core of the prototype roared to life, brighter than a star. The crowd gasped. Some fell to their knees. Others screamed in fear. Never in living memory had the prototype answered. But now before their eyes it had chosen. The human stood in the center of the storm of light, his face calm, his body outlined by power older than time itself. The scanner's voice filled the arena, shaking stone and soul alike. Accepted. Prototype origin activated. The sound echoed across the galaxy, and with those words, everything changed. The arena was still glowing from the moment the prototype awakened. Smoke of light floated like mist above the stone floor, and the echo of the word accepted had not yet faded. All around, millions of eyes stared at the human who now stood in the center, bathed in blue-gold fire. For the crowd, disbelief was stronger than silence. Some aliens pressed against the railings, shouting curses. Others gripped their weapons, angry at the thought that centuries of pride had been crushed in a heartbeat by someone they had called the weakest. The giant from the cow wreck roared so loud that the walls trembled. A mistake. A broken machine. His bone armor cracked as he slammed his fists against the stone. He could not accept that all his strength had been meaningless. The Hilari's silver-skinned champion narrowed their burning eyes. Their voice rang sharp and cold. Humans are not chosen. They are accidents of dirt and blood. The scanner is flawed. This must be corrected. The Galactic Council themselves rose from their high balcony. Their jeweled robes swayed, and one of the counselors raised his voice. This cannot stand. The fate of the galaxy cannot rest on him. His words hung heavy with disgust, but the prototype answered before the human could speak. Its voice was thunder, vibrating through the bones of every creature present. Origin sequence unlocked. Humanity is verified. The trial continues. The arena floor shook. Plates of metal unfolded. The walls of the arena split open, revealing chambers filled with weapons older than stars, machines with claws of light and wings of plasma. The machine was alive, reshaping the battlefield into something far greater. The human stood there watching. His heart pounded, but his face stayed steady. He had come not to win glory, but to try. Deep down, even he had thought he would fail. Yet the machine had chosen him. He could not run now. A voice called from behind him. The Karic giant pointed his massive claw. Fight me, human. Prove you are chosen, or admit you are nothing. The crowd shouted in agreement. Soldiers stomped their feet. The air shook with demand. Even the council gave a nod, their faces twisted but unwilling to stop the storm. The prototype's voice filled the air again. All who are accepted must prove themselves. Combat trial initiated. The arena shifted. The floor cracked apart and rose into high platforms. Jagged cliffs of black stone under a sky of burning stars. Weapons appeared from hidden vaults. The trial had begun. The Karic giant stepped forward, his fists wrapped in spiked armor, his body glowing with raw strength. Every other warrior had been denied, but he refused to believe it. If the human truly was chosen, then he would crush him and take the prototype for his own. The human stood still. He had no weapons except a simple blade at his side. Compared to the monster in front of him, he looked like a child facing a mountain, yet his eyes did not lower. The giant attacked first. His fist crashed down like thunder, stone exploding under the strike. But the human moved aside, fast and sharp. He had no great strength, but he had speed, focus, and the ability to think in ways the brute never could. He dodged again. And again. Each time the crowd roared louder. Some shouted for the giant to crush him. Others began to notice the human's calm, the way he studied every movement, every breath, waiting. Then, when the giant swung wide, the human struck. Just once. His blade cut across the joint of the giant's armor where bone met flesh. The giant roared in pain. The arena fell silent for a moment. No one had expected the human to land even a single blow. But he had. The Hilari champion floated forward now, her voice sharp as glass. Strength is nothing. Let him face the mind. Her eyes glowed and psychic fire filled the air, crashing toward the human like a tidal wave. The human stumbled, clutching his head. Visions of pain, of fear, of crushing doubt swarmed his thoughts. He felt his body weaken. The crowd gasped, certain he would fall. But then something happened. The prototype's glow around him pulsed brighter, shielding him. The voice of the machine whispered through his mind. You are not alone. You carry the resilience of your kind. The human took a breath. He focused, remembered every hardship, every struggle of his people. How they had survived on a small world filled with storms, wars, and hunger. How they had always stood again when they fell. He opened his eyes. The psychic fire shattered against him like glass on steel. The Hilari's glow faltered. For the first time, the champion of minds looked afraid. The crowd exploded into chaos. Some shouted in rage, others in awe. The human had resisted where none had. The Galactic Council leaned forward, whispering to one another in panic. If this trial continued, they could not stop what was coming. The human stood taller now. He was breathing hard, but his spirit burned brighter with every second. He did not speak many words. He did not need to. His presence alone was enough to shake the galaxy's belief, and in the depths of the arena, the prototype whispered again, "First test complete." The human stands. Next phase, initiation. The floor split wider, revealing something vast beneath, something that had been waiting for a true bearer. The human looked down into the light. His heart racing, this was only the beginning. The arena floor had cracked open like the skin of a dying star. From its depths, light rose in pillars, casting strange shadows across the faces of the alien crowds. The human stood at the center, his chest heaving from the combat trial, his blade still wet with the proof of survival. Yet the real trial, it seemed, had only just begun. The prototype's core pulsed brighter than before, its voice thundering in tones older than galaxies. Phase 2. Revelation. Accessing architect records, the words froze the crowd. The architects were spoken of in whispers, in legends told by scholars and priests alike. They were the ones who had built the foundations of galactic civilization, only to vanish without warning. Some claimed they had ascended into energy. Others believed they had destroyed themselves. But no one, not even the Council, had ever seen their true legacy. Until now, a holographic map unfolded in the air. Galaxies stretched in spirals of light, systems blinking like stars in the eyes of the crowd. At the center of the projection stood a single symbol, burning with ancient fire. A circle crossed by 3 lines, the mark of the architects. The prototype spoke again. The architects foresaw the coming of collapse. They built us to guide their successor. Only one race would carry the spark. Only one would awaken the origin protocol. The alien nobles in the stands shifted uneasily. Their empires had fought for millennia to prove dominance. Each believed their own kind was chosen, destined superior. Now the voice of the ancient machine told them they were wrong. The Hilary champion hissed. Lies, the architects were not prophets. They did not choose dirt-born creatures. They chose us. She tried to rise again, her mind glowing with psychic rage, but the prototype's light struck her down, silencing her completely. Unworthy, the machine declared. The Karek giant spat blood on the floor. If this human is the chosen, then let him show us his strength. If he is truly worthy, he must carry what no warrior has carried. The prototype did not argue. Instead, the floor split wider and a great chamber rose from below. Inside lay a weapon, or perhaps not a weapon at all. It was a massive gauntlet of black and silver, lined with streams of light that pulsed like veins. The moment it appeared, the air grew heavier, as if gravity itself bowed before it. Gasps filled the arena. Some cried out that it was cursed. Others whispered that it was the hand of the origin, the very tool used by the architects to shape their greatest machines. No being had ever touched it and lived. The prototype spoke. Bearer, step forward. The human stared at it. His chest tightened. He was no fool. He knew the weight of destiny when it pressed upon him. To touch that gauntlet might kill him, but to refuse would mean the end of everything the moment had built. Slowly, he walked forward. His steps echoed through the silence, each one heavier than the last. When he reached the pedestal, he lifted his hand. The Karek shouted, "It will burn him to ash." The council whispered, "If he dies, the balance is restored." The Hilary seethed, "Let him fail. Let the galaxy see," but the human touched the gauntlet. For an instant, nothing happened. Then the gauntlet came alive. Its lines of light surged, racing up his arm like rivers of fire. Instead of burning him, it fused to him, becoming part of his flesh and bone. His body glowed, his heart pounded, and his veins carried power not of this world. The prototype's voice shook the heavens. Integration complete. Humanity carries the origin. The crowd erupted. Some wailed in despair. Others screamed in fury. But there were those, scattered among the stands, who stared in awe, whispering the truth they could no longer deny. The human looked down at his arm, now covered by the living gauntlet. He flexed his fingers and energy followed. With a thought, he summoned a blade of pure light from his palm. With another thought, he bent the air itself. He did not yet understand the extent of it, but the prototype's whisper in his mind guided him. This is only the first piece. More remains hidden. The architects built you to endure, to suffer, to rise. That is why you alone can bear it. The human's breath caught. Built us? What do you mean? But the prototype did not answer. Instead, it turned its voice to the galaxy. The chosen bearer stands. The origin is awakened. Prepare the final trial. The arena shook again. The platforms crumbled. The stands cracked. Soldiers and nobles fled in panic as the floor split wide open. From the depths a shadow rose, massive, terrible, ancient. It was no warrior of flesh, no army of machines. It was something older, built by the architects themselves, left as the final test. A guardian. Its body was shaped like a titan of metal, with 4 arms ending in blades, wings of broken light, and a face carved without mercy. Its roar shook the stars. The prototype declared, "The chosen must face the guardian of origin. Survive and the galaxy is yours. Fall and humanity dies with you." The human lifted his glowing arm. The gauntlet pulsed, ready to fight. His heart thundered, fear and resolve burning as one. The crowd held its breath. The final trial had begun. The guardian rose like a mountain of steel and shadow. Its 4 arms gleamed with blades that hummed with deadly energy, and its wings stretched wide, casting darkness over the broken arena. Every being in the stands felt the weight of its presence. It was not simply a machine. It was judgment itself, left behind by the architects to destroy all who were unworthy. The human stood alone before it. The gauntlet on his arm pulsed with light, a living weapon connected to his very heartbeat. The prototype's voice whispered through his mind, steady and calm. "This is the guardian of origin. No strength of muscle, no brilliance of mind, no empire has defeated it. Only the one who carries resilience will survive. You must prove humanity's spirit." The guardian struck first. One of its blades came down with the force of a falling star. The human dove aside, the impact exploding the ground into molten stone. Dust and fire filled the air. The crowd screamed, some cheering for his death, others watching in terrified silence. The human rose, coughing, and raised his gauntlet. With a thought, a shield of light burst into existence, forming around his body. The next strike slammed into the shield, sparks and energy flying in every direction. His knees buckled, pain surged through his arm, but he did not break. The Karek giant bellowed from the stands. "It will crush him. Even with that tool he is nothing." But as the guardian pulled back for another strike, the human's shield held firm. He grit his teeth and pushed forward, each step slow but defiant. The Hilari champion, eyes glowing with fury, shouted, "Impossible! That machine responds only to those of higher mind." Yet the guardian, meant to test the best of them, now bent its fury only on the human. The guardian's second blade came. This time, instead of blocking, the human let the shield vanish at the last second. He rolled beneath the swing and thrust his gauntlet upward. A beam of searing light shot from his palm, striking the guardian in its chest. For a heartbeat, the giant machine staggered, smoke hissing from the wound. The crowd gasped. For the first time, the guardian had been hurt. The Galactic Council rose from their balcony, their jeweled faces pale with fear. One counselor shouted, "Stop this! Stop the machine! If he defeats it, no one will control him." But the prototype's voice thundered over them all. "The trial cannot be ended. The chosen must complete it." The guardian roared, its 4 arms spinning in a storm of blades. It leapt into the air with terrifying speed for something so large, then crashed down with an earthquake that split the arena floor. The human was thrown back, slamming against stone. Pain shot through his ribs, his vision blurred. For a moment he thought he would not rise. But then he remembered the fields of his home world, where storms destroyed crops but people planted again. The wars where his ancestors bled yet rose stronger. The hunger, the struggle, the endless fight to keep moving forward. Humanity had always endured. That was their gift. That was why he could not stay down. He forced himself up, blood on his lips, fire in his eyes. The gauntlet pulsed as if answering his spirit. Power surged again. The guardian charged. Its blades cut through stone and air, striking faster, harder. The human danced between death and survival, each move desperate but precise. He leapt onto a broken platform, then another, climbing higher. The guardian's eyes followed, glowing like suns. Finally, the human reached the highest ledge. He turned, raised his arm and let the gauntlet pour everything it had into one strike. A beam of light so bright it burned the eyes of the crowd tore across the sky and slammed into the Guardian's chest. The arena shook. The Guardian screamed, a sound like metal tearing apart. It stumbled, falling to one knee. The crowd erupted. Some shouted in awe, others in rage. The Karek slammed his fists, refusing to believe what he saw. The Halari covered her eyes. The council trembled, realizing they were watching the impossible. But the Guardian was not finished. Its wings opened, releasing storms of burning shards, raining destruction across the arena. Platforms collapsed, fires spread, and beings in the stands fled in panic. The human shielded himself, but he knew the fight had to end now. He could not outlast the machine forever. He leapt from the ledge, falling straight toward the Guardian. At the last second, he drove the gauntlet deep into the wound he had already made in its chest. Light exploded outward, filling every crack of the machine. The Guardian let out one last roar. Then it fell. Its body collapsed into the floor with a crash that shook the stars themselves. Smoke and silence followed. The human stood, chest heaving, surrounded by fire and ruin. The gauntlet glowed faintly, its power spent for now. But he was alive. He had survived what no other being in the galaxy could. The prototype's voice filled the silence. Final combat trial complete. The bearer stands. Humanity is proven. The crowd fell into chaos. Some bowed their heads, whispers of fear spreading. Humans are the chosen. Others raged, calling it false, demanding war. The Galactic Council looked down, their eyes cold with hatred. One counselor hissed, "If the prototype cannot be taken, then the human must be destroyed before his people rise." But below, the human raised his arm, the gauntlet glowing faintly. He had no army, no empire, but in that moment every being watching knew. The balance of the galaxy had shifted. This was no accident. This was destiny, and destiny was now human. Smoke still rose from the ruins of the Guardian. Its broken frame lay across the shattered arena floor, glowing with the last sparks of dying power. The crowd had gone silent, millions of eyes fixed on the lone figure standing in the dust, the human. He looked small compared to the Titan he had defeated. His armor was cracked, his body bruised, blood running from his lip. But the gauntlet on his arm glowed faintly, pulsing with a steady rhythm as if it were alive. Every beat whispered the same truth. The impossible had been done. For a moment, silence ruled the galaxy. Then chaos broke. Some alien factions fell to their knees, voices shaking in prayer. The architect's chosen has come. They saw destiny written in fire and light, and their pride bent into awe. Others shouted in fury, unwilling to accept the truth. The Karek giant roared, his fists smashing against the railing. "No, this cannot be. A weakling cannot be the bearer." His people echoed his rage, their voices like thunder. The Halari's eyes blazed with hate, silver glow burning. "This changes nothing. A tool does not make him superior. We will strip it from his corpse." And high above, the Galactic Council whispered together, their jeweled hands trembling. They had built their rule on control, on keeping the galaxy divided, each race afraid of the other. If the human truly became a symbol of unity, their power would fall. One counselor leaned forward, his voice sharp as a blade. "He cannot be allowed to live." The words spread like poison. Armies began to move, soldiers rushing down from the stands, weapons raised. Cannons locked on the lone human. The air filled with the sound of war. The human stood still, his breath heavy, his eyes steady. He knew what was coming. He was only one man, and the galaxy was ready to crush him. But then the prototype's voice rose once more, louder than every army's roar. "The bearer is proven. The origin stands with humanity." The arena shook again. From the depths beneath the ruins of the Guardian, light poured upward, brighter than suns. And out of that light something vast began to rise, a ship. Not built by any living empire, but by the architects themselves. It was enormous, its hull carved from black alloy, covered in glowing runes of power. Its design was both alien and perfect, every line balanced between beauty and terror. The air itself trembled around it as if it carried the weight of forgotten ages. The armies froze, their weapons lowering, for they all knew this was no ordinary warship. This was a vessel of the first builders, a weapon of destiny. The prototype's voice declared, "This is the origin vessel. It awaits its commander." The gauntlet on the human's arm pulsed brighter, pulling him forward. He stepped onto a platform of light which lifted him toward the vessel's heart. The crowd watched, half in silence, half in screams. The council tried to order their ships to fire, but every cannon in orbit fell dead, silenced by the prototype's power. Inside the vessel, the human felt the ship breathe with him. Its systems awakened, recognizing his touch, syncing with his pulse. The screens came alive, showing every star, every world, every empire trembling below. He stood at the command core, his hand on the controls, his heart pounding. The prototype whispered in his mind, "This is humanity's inheritance. Not to conquer, but to endure. To survive what is coming. To lead when others fall." The words chilled him. "What is coming?" he asked, but the prototype did not answer. It only pulsed, leaving the question hanging like a shadow across his future. Outside, the alien empires stared at the vessel, their pride crumbling. Even the fiercest warriors knew the truth. The galaxy had changed. The architects had not chosen the strongest muscles, the brightest minds, or the largest empires. They had chosen the race that had always been overlooked. The human stood in silence, gazing out at the stars through the ship's viewports. He thought of Earth, of his people who had no idea what destiny now waited for them. A quiet species, still fighting wars on their own soil, still climbing slowly into the sky, and yet, here he stood, carrying the weight of them all. The Galactic Council's voices carried across the comms, desperate and venomous. "Do not trust him. Humanity will rise above us all. If we do not stop them now, they will claim the galaxy." But other voices rose too. Soldiers from smaller races, long oppressed, spoke out. "Perhaps that is what we need. Someone not born of arrogance. Someone who knows struggle." Whispers spread across the galaxy. Faster than light, a human was chosen. And with each whisper, the balance of power shifted further. The human placed his hand firmly on the vessel's core. The gauntlet glowed bright, linking man and machine. The ship's engines hummed, ready to take flight. He did not speak words of conquest. He did not declare himself emperor. He simply whispered to himself, too low for any to hear, "We will not waste this chance." The vessel rose, breaking through the arena roof, ascending into the skies of 1,000 watching worlds. Its shadow stretched across the stars, a symbol of change, a promise of something greater. The prototype's final words echoed like thunder across every comm. "Every ship, every world, the architects are gone, but their chosen walks among you. The age of humanity has begun." And so it was. The galaxy trembled, not in laughter, not in disbelief, but in fear, awe, and anticipation. For one human had stepped forward, and in doing so had rewritten the fate of every star.